What episode are we on?
Fuck, I don't know. I could check real quick.
364?
It might be. I mean, let's look. 364.
All right. Are we recording? Yep.
Yeah, yep, yep.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the 364th edition of the Holy Backboard podcast. I am Dustin here in sunny Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage kicking it live and direct in Beaverton, Oregon, ready to talk about this this week of Blazers basketball. It's been last night changed a lot of things for that win, but it was a lot of weird basketball that we witnessed.
Did it? Did it change? I don't think it changed a whole heck of a lot. But yes, let's look at the week that it was. The Blazers are currently on a homestand, and up until last night, it was looking pretty bleak. Losing on Thursday to the hapless Utah Jazz, 114 to 122 in a game that saw both teams playing on the second night of a back-to-back, yet Utah was the team that took it to Portland and was up by as many as 32 points in the second half. The Boo Birds were out in the Rose Garden for that one. Then a back-to-back on the weekend, Saturday losing to the Dallas Mavericks, 131-120. Portland yet again had zero answer for Luka Doncic. And then a game in which the Blazers needed for draft purposes could not get it done against the Golden State Warriors, losing 118 to 114, but they bounced back and get an unexpected win against the Phoenix Suns after trailing by double digits early. They turned it around in the third quarter and held off a ferocious rally by Kevin Durant, who had another 40-point performance, but it was the Blazers on top, 109 to 104. They are 7-19 on the season, second to last in the Western Conference, tied with Memphis Grizzlies, who recently got Ja Morant back. And for those worrying about draft purposes, it still keeps Portland right around that 4 or 5 region. And realistically, with how bad the Spurs, Pistons, and Wizards have been, you're not cracking the top three. And to be frank, this isn't a
You
draft where
don't want
you
to.
don't need to draft, you don't need to crack the top three when it comes into it. And I just have a sneaky suspicion it's going to be a team with like the seventh or eighth worst odds that's just going to skyrocket up and land the lottery luck this spring. But that is far and away from where we are right now, right before the Christmas holiday. 26 games down. I mean, if you do the math, 46 games to go. So still more than half of the season left. I got quite a few things
I
that
do
stood
too.
out to me. Let's hear you first, Sage.
All right. So the reason I said the Suns game changes it is because the Blazers like shooting themselves in the foot for a full quarter every game. In the last 2 weeks, it seems like they shoot themselves in the quarter and have to fight back ferociously to get it into like a close game in which they lose. Last night they won, but when you give up 10 turnovers in a quarter, not be able to decide how to attack a 2-3 or a 3-2 zone or a box and one against Utah, the Blazers kick themselves in the foot or shoot themselves in the foot, and then they have to fight like cats and dogs to be able to make it a game. We're not talented enough to do that. Not many teams are talented enough to just have a full quarter of a lack of production. So get all of this bad habits out now. I'm fine with, but if it's kind of a bad look when we're just taking L's because one full quarter of just bad strategy, bad taking care of the ball, being lazy with the ball in their hands, making bad passes. And then the second thing, you brought up the draft. You know, if we get a top five pick, the potential all-star factor in this draft is at a very low margin. I feel like Alex Sarr is the only one that could potentially be an all-star. So be prepared to draft somebody that has the ceiling of a super role player, not somebody that's a franchise changer, because there really isn't that franchise changer there. Even Alex Sarr, who I really like, he doesn't have it in him to be a offensive hub on a good team. He is a secondary or tertiary player in an offense. So be prepared for getting some guy that can help Scoot and Shaden, but is not going to be an all-star, is not going to be a star player. He's going to be a star in his role, but not a star, piece on an offense on a good team when we're a good team. But what do you have to say?
It was along the first point was along the same lines as what you were talking about. And I don't know why it finally stuck with me. Maybe it was because this team seems to play worse when they're at full strength. Maybe it's because I'm tired of seeing roles not being defined and trying to figure out, oh, this is the type of player we need. It's staring us right in the face, Sage. I'm done making major roster decisions and thinking about major roster decisions until Joe Cronin addresses the elephant in the room, which is the Portland Trailblazers coaching staff led by Chauncey Billups. They're just not good enough. There's too much inconsistency that nobody is going to mistake this roster for a playoff contender, right? Like nobody is going to mistake them for that. But you look at what Ime Udoka did immediately with the Houston Rockets, and I don't think the roster is that much better than ours. You look at things, how players are being used. Shaden Sharp goes on a massive tear, 24 points or more in 5 straight games. Simons and Jeremy Grant return, and you watch that game against Dallas, and he is just sitting in the corner.
Mm.
Nothing is ran for him, no touches, no usage. And you also look at the Utah Jazz, both teams coming off of a back-to-back, Utah without a ton of their talent. Yet Will Hardy rolls out a box and one, which after 2 or 3 times down the floor, both you and I said they're leaving the corners open. We need to get some short corner shooters out there. Chauncey doesn't know that. He still leaves Matisse and Tumani in there. And his idea of trying to break that zone was let Anthony just shoot over the top of it, which the box one was intended to stop.
Up that. Yeah.
And it was contended, and bricks were being laid, and Portland got down big. And despite a furious comeback by Scoot Henderson, it was all for naught. And too many times are examples like that coming up where I'm just like, this isn't the guy.
You
What
mentioned Ime. He has an identity of like tough nosed basketball. Chauncey, like we pretend to have that, but I think it's fugazi. Like we don't always try hard defensively. The Rockets don't have like they have Alperen Şengün being the center. We have DeAndre Ayton. Our defense by default should be better because Alperen can't defend anyone. But they have Tari Eason and they have Jabari Smith and they have all of these players that are two-way players where Shaden Sharp theoretically can be a two-way player. Scoot can too, but they aren't. It isn't defined yet. They can still things can happen. Chauncey's just done a bad job of defining what we are as a team. Sometimes we play hard, and sometimes we just don't. You muted, but
Yeah, it's not even just the identity. I need someone who is going to look at the roster and know how to best use it effectively and efficiently, right? Like I'm not ready to cast away Anthony Simons because maybe he's shooting too much. I'm not just gonna say let's just trade Jeremy just to get him off of the books. Like there's talent there, and at this point, I'm like, wait, another coach could probably figure this team out a little bit better. Now, I think we're both on the same page. Matisse's value, Malcolm's value, those are winning players on contending
mhm.
teams that can fetch you draft capital, and they're probably not going to be a higher value than they are at the moment. So, you can tinker around the edges, but when I look at this roster and you start to go into the metrics and you're wondering why aren't the Blazers performing well at full strength, and it's because it's how they're being utilized. You look at the percentage of field goals made unassisted. So this is basically just ISO basketball. Number one in the Blazers is Scoot Henderson at 71%. Makes sense. He's a point guard. That's on ball is when he needs the ball. Like he's really not going to be an off the ball threat. But number two is Anthony Simons at 61%. And just to put that into a little bit of context, certain players around that same percentage, you got De'Aaron Fox at 72%, Trae Young, 75%, even Damian Lillard right around Anthony Simons' number at 68%. So you've got two main cogs of your future not being utilized effectively. When I see those numbers, I see Scoot needs to have the ball in his hands. Anthony is a lights out off the ball player. You can run him off of screens. He can really shoot. He is an incredible catch and shoot shooter. He can make quick decisions. He's been attacking the basket off of the bounce much more frequently, which I love. But I know he's incredible. I know he's had that game winning shot against the Suns, but letting Anthony try to be Damian Lillard is not how you're going to get the most out of this team, because by letting him try to take the Dame role, you're basically neglecting Scoot, and by proxy, you're neglecting Shaden, because I don't think in the modern NBA you can have two dribble ISO first players in your starting unit, and Portland does right now with Jeremy and Anthony. And I think that's why you're seeing so much awkwardness with the Blazers at full strength, because one, the roles aren't defined. People don't know who's in the pecking order. One game it's Shaden, the next game, Jeremy is kind of going off by himself. So the roster is a little bit jumbled, but I think if we had a better just manager who knew how to kind of put people in the right positions to succeed and make others around them better. Like Scoot, he's been playing phenomenal lately.
Mhm.
Like in the month of December, 8 games, averaging 14.3 points. I know he's not shooting great from the field, but it is the highest of any month, 41% from the field, 28% from three, which where he started, I'm going to take
Yeah, absolutely.
87% from the line, but you're getting 4.5 assists, 3 rebounds. Um, I've really loved what I've seen from him. And in most games, he's been our best player. He was the best player against Utah. He
Mm.
was incredible against the Golden State Warriors, 14 points. He had a first 2010 game of any rookie this year in terms of points and assists against the Jazz, 23 points and 10 assists. He's starting to find his groove, but he's not going to reach his full potential. And again, this is a player that the Blazers thought so highly of, they were willing to move off of franchise legend Damian Lillard because they saw a generational talent. And I'm sorry, Sage, he's not going to even come close to that status if they don't start utilizing him properly. And he needs the ball in his hands, and he will get Anthony his shots. He will get Shaden his shots. He'll get DA his looks. And I'm sure he'll get Jeremy his looks as well. Like defensively, you need to figure stuff out for that whole core. But if you're looking to, when you're rebuilding, you got to kind of have to take baby steps and like chunk it a little bit here and a little bit there. Offensively, Scoot is your conductor. And I've seen enough from him off the bench now that like this is a developmental season. Like we're already losing trying to, run the offense through Jeremy and Ant. Like let's see what it looks like. We have this entire season to see how everything kind of meshes and kind of feels together. And I really want to see Scoot with the ball in his hands, and I want to see Anthony really get some looks off ball. But again, it comes back to the head coach. And Sage, I just don't believe in Chauncey Billups' ability to call an offense. Like we have Shaden is incredible off the ball too, but like there's no excuse for him to take 6 shots against the
Mm.
Mavericks coming off of that phenomenal performance. He had 27 against the LA Clippers. Like there was so that's kind of where I'm at with this episode is like all I want for Christmas is a new head coach, because I feel like you can't make any real major decisions with this franchise until you address the
I don't
the
think. Well, I agree with what you're saying. I can't blame Ant or Jeremy because they're being put in this situation of
I'm not
being
blaming
the
them.
main guy. So I like.
I would argue they're
Well, I
being
think
enabled to be the main guy. Like
yeah,
he's telling him, yeah, go get
everybody
yours.
that staff is telling them to take as many of those shots as possible. So like I feel like Ant is doing a very good job of learning how to his process has sped up so much in the last year compared to like, do you remember Jalen Brown? His decision making has been what was trash and it is improved. I think Anthony Simons has that jump in the process of playing basketball. So I don't want to hamper that development that he has been showing, but at the same time, maybe he should. I feel like he should ISO it maybe 40% of the time. 60% seems outrageous. I just think Chauncey Billups has put he and Jeremy at places where they can't succeed because they're older. And you throw Malcolm Brogdon in that too, where he's just being placed in a position where he's hit his peak performance wise and can only go down. And I've noticed that Malcolm's gotten scaled down quite a bit, but still, like the fact that he drove it 14 times a game during the season just shows that we were not putting him in positions to succeed. So yeah, I think Cronin and Chauncey really did a disservice to every, ball dominant player that we've had this season where they've been put in positions where they can do something, but they're much, much, much better at doing something else. Malcolm Brogdon was the sixth man of the year catching and shooting. But the fact that I watched him drive all the time was a disservice to him. He's slow as shit. Like the if there was no such thing as like, the changing of speed, he would be screwed with what he's doing offensively. He just was really efficient off going from slow to slower. Like
We were at the game and I called it out to you. It was a 2-on-1 fast break. I don't know who the ball handler was, but Tumani popped out for a three instead of
oh
driving the
yeah.
lane for an easy dunk. He hit the three, but I turned to you and I said, that's the wrong play. Like it went in and nobody is going to question it, but that's the wrong basketball play.
But he was so hot.
The When I watch this team, that's just constantly going through my head. I'm like, they
But
scored, but
you're
that's
oh,
that's that,
that
that's the
that would have
wrong.
been the right play pre 2000 and whenever Steph Curry became
I'm
the
like,
league.
that's the wrong play. Like you see, like Jeremy going 1-on-1, and yeah, he scored. But I'm like, you've got shooters in the short corner. Like that's a better shot. Like we need to, and this is what happens when our main shot creators are being enabled to kind of just take over as they want. Is when the game gets tough and close down the finish, they may be in a rhythm, but when you
No
kick
one
it
else
out
is, yeah.
to a Sharp or a Thibault or anyone else, they haven't got their groove. They haven't got their reps in. So it's almost like a pinch hitter coming in cold off of the bench, and you're asking them to knock down that shot where if you had a floor general like a Scoot getting people involved, like everyone feels involved and engaged. And I don't know about you, Sage, but when I play basketball, it doesn't matter what level, if I know I pass the ball and it's coming back to me, or if I know I'm getting, some looks, some touches on offense, it makes me that much more excited to go down there and play defense. Like I'm much more engaged and locked in. And that's something that I think is a direct comparison to the NBA level, because it doesn't matter how much money they make, like they're still playing a game that they enjoy. But if you feel like you're not just involved or a big part of the offense,
Well, look at DA.
yeah, you're not going to be super enthused to go and do the dirty work all of the time when you got to throw these guys a bone every now and then. And I feel like the way that the offense is drawn up, it's like, oh God, just save us Jeremy and Ant. And again, I'm not blaming those two. I think it's pretty much on the staff. Like that's why I think the team is playing so poorly when they're at full strength.
I I just think that Chauncey Billups wasn't really
Ready?
prepared, yeah, to 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 create an offense all his own. I just don't think he was because let's be real, when he had Dame, there was a lot of Terry Stotts in that offense. Like they knew Terry Stotts
They
offense.
had to bring back some of the Terry Stotts
Yeah.
offense because it was so subpar.
Yeah, so like when Dame's gone, you can't really do the Terry Stotts offense really with this team. So he had to build a offense and like a scheme all to his own. And it's kind of like Anthony slash Jeremy Grant save us in these clutch moments. I mean, we're running some like AAU schematics offensively. Like the guy at the center drives and then everyone rotates one spot to the right is something that you see in AAU ball, not in the NBA. So he's trying to create an offense that's all his own, and it's like he's not prepared for it. And then he has the assistants that just aren't prepared for this level. Like you got Scotty Brooks not really being he's not an offensive guy. He's run some unimaginable offenses. I think if you're trying to make the Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simon, Shaden Sharp trio work, you need to have some creativity to generate space for others and, allow those three their time to be the alpha. And I would say for the majority of the year, it's been Malcolm Brogdon the first 3 quarters and Shaden Sharp the fourth in that save it for us type of role. And then you have Anthony Simons now taking that fourth quarter, please save us role, but he also has a huge part in the first 3 quarters. So he's not cold going into that fourth quarter when he's getting the ball. I mean, it really all depends. It all just shows that we aren't prepared for this type of basketball with, the scheme that we have offensively, and that how we don't, you know, play the same level of effort every game. You just see sometimes where it's like they don't really want to be there with the effort they're showing defensively. So yeah, I mean it's all on Chauncey Billups and his staff. And if I was Charles Lee, or if I was one of these coaches that wants that next opportunity, I'm not keeping anybody on the Blazers staff. Everybody's going to be a new hire if it was me, and my judgment about what the Blazers have done in the last 3 years.
So we've talked about the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, the Blazers have looked rough over the past 8 games, in which they are 1-7. If you look at a whole on the season, their defensive rating is middle of the pack, 115. That's 14th out of 30th. But their points per game, they give up 114, 17th in the league. But over that 8 game stretch, it's up to 120. I think it's too early to say if it's the smaller backcourt. I think it also has to do with an uptick in the competition. You've played Dallas, you've played Golden State, you've played Dallas twice actually, you played Phoenix, um, you played the Clippers. So you've played some tough opponents in that stretch, but it is something to keep an eye on. And I will say, like, on a singular level, player to player, I think they're trying and doing what they need to do. But whenever they go up against a guy like Luka or Kawhi, there's just no idea of what to do. Like that Mavericks game was just, I mean, Luka was just like a Sunday stroll in the park. Like,
Doing whatever he wanted.
I mean, you talk about change of pace and playing with just a complete level of confidence. I don't think I've seen another player like do it like Luka Doncic. Like he just knew he was in complete command and control. And Portland got after that blistering start offensively,
Mhm.
but they couldn't. They tried to pick him up full court. They tried to blitz him. They had no answer for him. So I mean, we even saw Chauncey call a timeout 18 seconds into the third quarter after apparently it seemed like DeAndre didn't come up and hedge hard
Mhm.
enough on Doncic. He dropped back into drop coverage. What have you seen from the defense with a healthy Blazer roster? Do you think it's more of the opponent picking up in terms of their talent level, or is it or is Portland just a better defensive team when they're able to go with Thibault and Kamara and a bigger backcourt in Sharp and Simons?
I don't really notice Anthony making that many bad plays defensively. I think it's an effort issue. And then you're dealing like when we were playing trash teams and playing good defense, like we looked awesome because we were pressuring players that aren't used to dribbling the ball and forcing them to make turnovers. I really think most of it is an effort plus Luka Doncic is a lot different than Colin Sexton as a playmaker, as a NBA player.
But
So
Colin still gave us buckets.
well, bro, I had him in 80% of my DFS lineups that
I
night.
mean, I was thinking about that, and I was like, you're right. But I was like, wait, Utah absolutely cooked us.
I was
I,
just thinking of a mid point guard, and that was the first one that came to mind.
I
Like,
mean, Utah was just taking the ball and going like one pass cut, and we gave up over 70 paint points that contest. So I guess another question is, DA didn't play that game, but is he the rim protector Portland needs? Because he also didn't play in that Clipper game, and I know Moses Brown had to come in to give us a little bit of a spark. Like it just feels like Portland also doesn't have the complete center that they're looking for, unfortunately, right? You pay a lot of money for DeAndre Ayton, but he doesn't set the screens that Reith does. Reith isn't the rebounder that DeAndre is. You don't have that backline defender that everything's going to be okay if they get to you, who can also rebound and shoot. Like this is
but you're
something that
talking about like an elite player to do all of that.
I mean, if you watch this defense, that they just get cooked in the paint.
Yeah, but I don't blame it all on DA.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming DA. I'm saying just Portland because based upon
I
what
think
I'm
that
seeing,
schematically you put DA in so many
that's what
negative
I'm saying. Is it a
situations.
scheme that Portland needs to adjust because clearly they don't have the personnel like Robert Will like if they had Robert Williams, I think they would be fine playing some of the schemes that they're doing right now.
I
They
don't
don't.
I don't blame it isn't it's partly a personnel thing, but I think mostly it's Jermaine Grant and Tumani not helping DA in those negative situations where he's just getting pressured and has to make a move to stop the shot, and then nobody help. It's the same thing with Hassan Whiteside that I'm seeing with DA, except there's better players for DA that should be covering for him instead of, you know, whoever the small forward and power forward were with that Blazers team with Hassan. Da makes the move to make stop the score, and then they give up the rebound and an easy score on the other way because Da is out of position. I think it's a real like lack of chemistry defensively between our post players and our wings. I yeah, like you put Da in such a bad position that he gives up points because he's just out of position because he has to help. And then offensively, he's getting like 4 touches a game, so he's not like super motivated to be Tyson Chandler out there. So I mean like you said, like you feel so much more motivated to play hard if you have the ball. That I think that first quarter they try and give him the ball. Like the first 5 possessions are probably 60% DA, and
It's
then
peak
nothing.
DA
It's feed DA in the first 5 minutes,
and
nothing
then
else.
completely forget about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I think schematically, like, why would I want to help you if I'm touching the ball 4 times a game and then like have to do all the dirty work and then everything's placed on me when it inevitably fucks up because nobody has my back. Like, I get
I
why.
I I think what's really frustrating is I think Portland is leaving a lot of low hanging fruit on
Oh
the
yeah,
board.
totally.
The lob game has completely evaporated.
It's like once a game.
Shaden, I maybe one or two all season. DeAndre maybe four. Like this is again why I want Scoot Henderson with the ball in his hands because he's going to get others involved. And Da, I wouldn't say it's Shaden's biggest strength, but it is a strength of him to catch lobs and go backdoor. But Da is a rim running big.
Hmm.
Like to have him on the floor offensively and not utilize that, just it's like having Marshall Falk and not utilizing him in the passing game at all. Just saying, no, we're just going to run you up the gut.
Hmm.
Like, right, we're not going to run any screens, any flares, any outs, and get you out in open space. You're hindering someone's strength.
Hmm.
And I think that's just why I've kind of hit my limit. I'm just like,
But I think that I mean DA is the person that is the most affected by us not being able to notice people's strengths and weaknesses. But at the same time, I think it's being done everywhere on except for like Jeremy Grant and Anthony now that he's back. Everybody is being affected by bad schemes and then being having a role that is determined like the day of, not like long rules, responsibilities, and what you have to do on the court. So it's it's a bad place to be in when you just don't know what your role is day in and day out. You're being put, you're doing one thing the other day, one day, and something else completely different the other. So I feel for our teammates that aren't Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons, who absolutely know what their role is. So like, yeah, I don't get it. It there just needs to be a better distribution of shots throughout our entire team that plays. It just needs to be better distribution, because some games Da gets 4, Shaden gets 5, and then Tumani gets 20. Like, it just needs to be more. We need to look at who hasn't touched the ball, and I guess that's why Scoot Henderson is such a need, because he'll be able to feed players that just don't get the ball and at least get the ball in their hands. I remember watching a video podcast of PJ Tucker saying, "You expect me to make this shot when I haven't touched the ball in 14 real life minutes?" I mean, we're asking Matisse or we're asking Shaden. He gets like 4 shots in the first 3 quarters, and then we're asking him to take 15 in the next in the fourth. You're expecting him to be good when he hasn't touched the ball, really? The people's expectations, I don't know. It's just a very weird scheme in what we're doing offensively.
And one of the reasons why I want to see more Scoot Henderson with the ball in his hands is because the offense can bog down. Like we've seen,
Mhm.
especially in close games, it's clear out, let Anthony go. He might make a tough shot, he might not, right? Like that was the Clippers game
It's
to
randomness. It's randomness is what we're playing
but
into.
you get Scoot, and I'm constantly watching the tape and then hitting rewind, and you're just like, he's getting the ball off of makes, off of misses, and just bursting in. There is a lot of Russell Westbrook in his game. Like
Mhm.
he is strong, he is wide, and he is fast, and he's got a burst. He doesn't have the verticality that Russ does, but I think his vision is going to be better than what Russ's vision was at his peak. So, there is a specialness to Henderson's game, and you're already seeing him finishing, over contact in traffic, utilizing that strength, utilizing that quickness, and either getting to the line or just giving a change of pace, because
Mhm.
you can't come down and run the same stuff, 70 times a game, 80 times a game, however many possessions there are. So that's just what I want to see. Like, we've never had a player that just, I mean, Clyde Drexler's the last guy I remember just gets the ball, puts his head down, and it's like, okay, get the hell out of the way, otherwise this guy's gonna just truck you and you're gonna get the N1, right? So there's talent on this team. I don't want to make a major roster decision. I do think it can work with Scoot and Shaden. We just need a better basketball mind to do it. And it's really frustrating seeing how everyone's being utilized in what should be a developmental season, yet he's out there coaching like we're trying to,
Make the
make,
playoffs.
make the playoffs. And if
Yeah.
if by any stretch of the imagination Chauncey Billups gets the team to the playoffs, we're done in 4 or 5 games. Like what I saw from Will Hardy, that was enough. Like, can you imagine like Nick Nurse or Ime or Pop or Spolstra or Kerr going up against one of those coaches,
Mhm.
Michael Malone, what they would
Yeah.
draw up, and Chauncey be like, Ant, go out and just save us. Like that's the plan.
I, I I feel like there is such a difference between playoff basketball and regular season basketball. What we can do right now, if Ant saves us, we might win 30 plus games of just Ant saving us. But what happens when Nick Nurse, if he was on the West Coast, Boston won Ant from second one to second or to minute 48? Like, what happens? That's why you gotta have a scheme. Like, when plan A fails, and plan A is gonna fail if it's just let Ant score, or let whoever usage monster you want to be the main guy that day. What happens when the opposing team runs a 2-3 zone, and we haven't practiced against that and we have no idea how to bust that zone or bust that box and one Like what works now isn't going to work when games really matter. This year doesn't really matter, but when games really do matter, you want to have multiple schemes to stop to score on offense and to stop the opposing team to score on defense. Right now, we just don't have either. Like it's we play defense the same way too every time. It's not like it changes much. Like even if it's a slip on the pick and roll, we hard switch. Scoot likes to front the guy that he switches with and gets so many fouls drawn off of that one move, and then Ant and Malcolm are play behind and get posted up. We don't really change anything, so our schematics offensively and defensively might work in the regular season, but will not work in times where the games really matter.
Yeah, I think there's just a lack of adaptation, right?
No,
I think
yeah.
some of the schemes we run, sure, if you have a five of switchable defenders, yeah, you can switch everything and you'll be great. We don't have that. You have to adapt. You have to figure out who's going to switch, who's not, who's going to go over the top of the screen, who's going to fight through it. Are you going to, run sort of a zone? Who's going to be free safety? Like who's guarding the rim? Like you have to adapt, and you have to adapt to the personnel that's on the
We have a
floor
real trouble with know your personnel.
big time.
Honestly, you know who has the worst time with it? Jabari. He plays the same way regardless of who's on the floor. And in theory, that's fine. But if he's posting up and DA is on the floor, move your ass to the corner, bud. I think he's the biggest know your personnel type of issue on our team. Because yeah, like if you're the power forward, your responsibilities are quite different than when you're playing center. Anything you want to talk about? I know that we probably need to be a little quicker today than normal. Or do you want to go to predicting the games?
Oh no, we'll predict the
Okay.
games. Pretty sure my son is still taking his nap, and shout out to him. It is his first birthday. So I'm really having a good day, and I had pho this afternoon,
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
my belly is full, and I'm happy. And
Enjoy all the peeing you're gonna do in the next hour.
shout out to the kidneys, right?
Okay.
But we are now pushed on the season for predictions. I thought we would beat the Warriors, but it did not happen. So we are now even on the year. We will look at 3 games with the Christmas holiday coming up. You'll be in Southern Oregon. We'll figure out what next week
I
looks
have
like.
my mic in Southern. I have a mic in Southern Oregon. Not
Let's
not the good one, but I have a mic.
But let's just look at these 3 games. We've got the Wizards on Thursday, the 21st, a quick stop in Golden State on the 23rd, which is a Saturday. And then the day after Christmas, Tuesday, the 26th, the Sacramento Kings come to town. I was gonna say the Wizards, it's got to be a victory, but with this team, you sometimes lose the ones you should win, and sometimes you win the ones you should lose, and that's kind of what happened last week. Utah should have been an easy victory. Phoenix should have been an easy defeat. You say
Mhm.
Kevin Durant gets 40 points, I would have said that's Phoenix by 20. Didn't happen. That's why they play the games. So this is an interesting one because Washington kind of cleans our clocks in Portland recently. Like they beat us by 25 last year, and not much has changed in the nation's capital. They did
I mean,
they're still the hapless Wizards, Sage. They're probably the most irrelevant franchise over the past 20 years in the NBA.
I mean, I don't know how many people are like up on baseball stuff. Like when you play the Wizards, it's like going to Colorado and playing the Rockies for your offensive production. Like
That altitude.
the altitude, like
Shout
or
out
going to
to
Mexico City. And
Shout out to Boy Meets World. Season 1, the Colorado Rockies, it was their inaugural season. And Corey and Sean's I think science project described that in good detail. They're like they talked all about all of the home runs going out of there. So I totally
so
got that
yeah,
that
yeah. So
reference.
it's like going to the Rockies. Your offense is gonna be better going against I think the third fastest paced team and like the worst defender team.
Worst defensive team. They give up damn near 127 points per game. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They're 4-22 on the season. I'm picking
They're
the
the
Blazers.
Rockies. They're the
I'm
Rockies of the NBA.
I'm picking a Blazer victory, but
Yeah,
if I watch that game, listen to it, and Portland loses, I'm not going to be one bit surprised.
I feel you on that, but
I do think they win.
I do think they win as well.
You just can't let Jordan Poole get 50. You can't just let him have one of his nights.
He's been so shitty this year.
Oh,
I
did you
mean,
see the banana peel slippage
no, I
against the
didn't.
Suns? So they're playing the Suns in Phoenix and they blow a late 16-point lead.
They do
They're,
that.
they're down by 4, and he comes off of a curl off of inbounds to shoot a deep three, and there's plenty of time left, but he decides to fade into the stands and tries to bank a three from 30 feet, and it didn't look very aesthetically pleasing or graceful. But that's the Wizards for you. Like they don't want to win this game. Like
No,
they'll
they
give
don't.
you this game. This is a game where I think Scoot should eat.
Against, yeah. Well,
I also
which
would
Jones
rest
brother
Shaden
is
Sharp.
it? Trey or
I would also rest Shaden Sharp. I thought they should have
yeah.
rested him against Phoenix. They said he was questionable from the abductor soreness. What do you know? He plays 8 minutes and doesn't return. They just rest. Like let's keep our guys healthy. The season doesn't matter. Let's not try to be heroes, coaching staff. So rest Shaden. I think Ant will have a great night, but I also think this game is tailor made for Scoot to get downhill. I know they have Gafford, but I don't
Gafford's
think that.
good. I don't.
No, Gafford's good, but that shouldn't deter Scoot, and I think it shouldn't deter him from getting his.
Well, I want to see what Scoot does to Gallinari when he's the backup five. I mean, the Wizards. This is the worst time to be this bad for the Wizards when there's no superstar in the draft because they sure need something for them offensively and defensively. But yeah, you're this is a like the best case scenario for you to be able to make that last place offense look pretty damn good. So I think the Wizards take the L and we get this much needed 2 game streak.
Then Portland faces off against the Golden State Warriors. This will be the third time this month. The NBA has been really weird with their scheduling. Seems like you're playing teams in bulk, and I don't really love it, but it is what it is. Portland is 0-2 on the season. They lost in Golden State back on the 6th, 110-106. And then again, they lost by 4 again on the 17th, 118-114. Obviously, no Draymond Green, suspended indefinitely. They had a big comeback win against the Boston Celtics.
Mhm.
The rookie Brandon Podjemski was out. Jonathan Kuminga has been getting a lot of playing time. Klay Thompson has found his
Trace
rhythm a
Jackson
little bit.
Davis has been
Trace
looking good.
Jackson Davis looks like the player that we thought he was. We had him much higher on our boards than the second or third to last pick in which he went. Looks like a really good Kevon Looney replacement down the line. He played really well against us as well. And Wiggins
Had
broke
a
out.
fucking remember me game against us.
Yeah. Um, right
And
before
Clay actually
Christmas.
was not Clank Thompson. He was actually
Steph was horrible, and there was no Draymond, and we
yeah,
still lost that
lost.
game.
Yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow. Um, I think if you're the Blazers, I want to see how they react defensively to what the Warriors do because Steve Kerr he's a good coach. And despite having all those players in and out of the lineup, they still have Steph Curry. So you always have to keep your head on the swivel. But they just play such a pretty brand of basketball. And the player for me who just looks better and better each game and a lot of people are questioning why he doesn't get more consistent run is Jonathan Kuminga. He had a big steal in
Mhm.
overtime against the Boston Celtics, locked up Jason Tatum on that final play of regulation. I assume he's going to get the defensive assignment on Jeremy Grant.
Mhm.
So I don't want to see a lot of one-on-one isolation from JG. I think Anthony will be able to. This is a game where Ant can put together an all-around performance. Like he had a 30 plus, 8 rebounds, 6 assists night, and I loved that. And he's been getting to the line so much more. If Portland's going to win, I think Anthony's going to have a just a colossal night. I'm assuming Shaden's going to be out this week. I don't think they want to mess with any lingering
Mhm.
injuries. Um, but
I
I
want DA to dominate the opposing centers. Like Gaff, I mean, I like Gafford, but DA's got like 2 inches on him and he can jump out of the gym. I want him to dominate in at least 2 ways: rebounding, changing shots or scoring. I want him to have a big game. Like, there's no one that worries me on Golden State or the Wizards with DA. I want him to shine in these games.
This will be a second night of a home back to back. They get the Wizards on Friday and they get the Blazers on Saturday. Um, I still like the Warriors. If we're not going to beat them at home with everything that happened, Steph breaking his 268 game streak with a three, it probably just isn't in the cards this year.
We have
Um,
the best case scenario against going against the Warriors with Stephen Curry not doing what Stephen Curry does and we still lost. What happens when he reverts to the mean and can score against us effortlessly? I think the Warriors also get the dub.
And lastly, the Sacramento Kings, who are 16 and 9, fourth place in the Western Conference. They are 500 on the road, but they have won 7 of their last 10 games, including 3 in a row. Um, we talk about defense. De'Aaron Fox stresses the defense like very few do. And Keegan Murray just had a massive outburst earlier this week. I think he had
Mm-hmm.
10 threes, 45 points, 14 rebounds, something absurd like that. This is going to be a team that is going to score. They were the league's best offense last year. They're still an elite offense. You can score against them. You talk about DA eating, like there's no other team I think he should eat against than the Sacramento Kings.
Sabos. Yeah.
But again, we'll see, how do the Blazers come out? Do they make it a priority to get him involved, or are they going to try and just run their regular, same old, same old? I want to see some, you have to look at personnel and you have to look at the opponent and you have to see, okay, maybe we don't have the advantage that we normally have with Jeremy Grant, so to speak, but we have it with DeAndre Ayton. Like, this should be a game for him. It's a tricky one because it's the day after Christmas, you're home, but Sacramento just is such a matchup problem with how
Mm-hmm.
fast they want to play, with how
Malik
good
Monk's
De'Aaron
been
Fox
good.
is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good team that we're potentially going to lose to.
I have the Kings winning.
Yeah,
I
I
just
do too.
I
But
want to see how does Simons match up with Fox? How does
who
he?
do you want to guard De'Aaron for the majority of the game? Do
You
you
can't
want to
put too
put
money on
Malik?
him. He's too
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah.
You don't really. So, and this is where having a more creative coach would come in, because really I would like Matisse to kind of shadow wherever De'Aaron goes, not guard him one on one, but like Matisse is so good in the passing lanes that I would utilize him kind of in the middle of the floor or just kind of wherever De'Aaron, kind of tracking him, kind of like a spy does at the linebacker position for a mobile quarterback.
Mm.
And you just want him to be there to either play in the passing lanes, or if he can make a decision, go run out, hedge, blitz, double, get the ball out of Fox's hands, just make them think a little bit more. I've been really pleased with Matisse, his defense. Um,
We put
I do
Tumani
think,
on Keegan.
yeah, I do think Tumani's played some good defense this year, but I mean, I think
De'Aaron Fox is just too fast
yeah,
for
one, we really need to pump the brakes on how good of a defender he is. He's a good defender. He's not elite. This is
cooked
no
by point
disrespect to
guards.
him. He's getting absolutely like just cooked by the Luka Doncic's of the world. And I
No, don't
know,
even say Luka Doncic is just average point guards cooking him.
yeah, and I
I
know
think
Luka,
Keegan Murray is a perfect matchup for him.
yeah, like
Just be disciplined. Like they have nothing but shooters. Just be disciplined, and you're going like just be disciplined defensively. Don't give up super easy threes to these shooters, and you're going to score a lot. Maybe randomness just goes our way and we win big because Ant or somebody on this team gets hot, but they're not defending us. And like Scoot's gonna have an easy. The only way Scoot doesn't have easy layups and dunks is if we screw him over. It's not going to be Sacramento stopping it. It's going to be Portland just being in the paint too much and then it being stopped. So I think it's an 0-3 week, but I think that we're going to be happy with how we look offensively because all three teams suck defensively.
I just want to see some rebounding. We're fourth worst in the league in rebounds per game, 41. It just seems like every game there's a major loose ball that we don't get, especially down the
We
stretch.
lose majority of the 50-50 balls.
We just get crushed on the glass. I know personnel has a lot to do with it. Jeremy Grant doesn't like to rebound the basketball, but others need to help DA out. Like there was a point in
Mhm.
time where he was leading the league in rebounds. That's kind of came back down to life. Um, but we just need somebody to go in there and help crash the glass. I know Jabari does when he's in there, but who else? Like just I need to see some how they say gang tackling in football. We need some gang rebounding.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
And
like, if
one in
you're
two
a
weeks.
nothing, if you're a nothing defender or a nothing offensive player, why the fuck are you running out like you're gonna score offensively? Get in there and get dirty and get a rebound. Like, if you're Matisse, you're not running the break anyway by yourself. Crash the goddamn boards.
This is we're starting to get to the halfway point. Like I think sample sizes are still too small. Um, I think for the most part, Portland is who we think they are, but like in terms of are they better not at 100% strength versus at 100% strength? I don't think we can say that for certain yet because I think the stat that jumps out at me is Portland's won one game this year with Anthony Simons. They've won six without him, but I don't think we're a better team without Anthony Simons. But again, like so there just hasn't been enough basketball to be played for certain statistics to make a lot of sense or to draw conclusions from certain things. So that's what I'm looking forward to as the season progresses is like, can Chauncey Billups improve with a healthy roster? Like, remember, this is a team that significantly struggled his first year with Damian Lillard up until New Year's Eve when they shut Dame down. And that was a team that was sixth in the West the year prior with Terry Stotts. Like, that was a team trying to win. And then they struggled the next year. And they really only started to show these glimpses when it was a bunch of, reserves and young players kind of scrapping. You can't win 82 game basketball like over the course of 82 game season just playing that type of balls to the wall scrapping, getting career nights from Skylar Mays in Memphis type of basketball. Like those are one off nights. You have your best players for a reason. I want to see if we can start to look just a little bit better, more consistent. It's frustrating that we're even talking about this, but like I need to see better effort
Oh
because
no, the effort has been lacking, especially
the
defensively for a
Utah
while.
game was just a disgrace to be honest. Like it was fun because I was there with you and we were hanging out, but that was really bad basketball.
Well,
And
I kept yelling about a running clock because it was so awful.
just the effort's been so inconsistent. You watch them play undermanned in Los Angeles and take the uber talented Clippers down to basically the last seconds of the game, and then you come home for this homestand where again wins aren't everything, but you would like to rack up a few of these victories, and you had chances to against teams that aren't, I wouldn't say the cream of the crop out west, but you're just kind of getting your lunch served to you. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the Wizards game is the biggest tell of the bunch because that's a game that the Blazers know they should win. The players probably think they should win, but how will they address it?
I think the stealth tank of the Wizards, they're not even the stealth tank. The tank itself will give us the win on that one. But all right.
That's what Ed Davis thought about the Philadelphia 76ers during the press
Yeah, and they
yesterday.
probably shouldn't have been talking on radio about that.
We will
Still a
always
dumb.
bring that up.
Still such a dumb mistake by the Blazers for talking shit about professionals. But I don't know, man. Like they're so unserious. But you got anything else, or do you want to wrap this bad boy up?
It's been a wonderful day. Um, Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone out there who celebrates. Enjoy the time with your friends and family and loved ones. Stay safe out there. Be kind to one another. I hope you have a safe flight to Southern Oregon, Sage. I hope you have a great holiday. I'm looking forward to our games in January that we get to attend. That's the great thing about Blazer basketball is it regardless of whether you are frustrated or happy or all of the emotions that the Blazers put you across the spectrum still brings us all together and especially us on a weekly basis. So very happy for that, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week.
All right. So we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere where you get your podcast, we are there. We're also available video podcast in its entirety on YouTube, and then we clip it up and put it on socials. Follow us on our Twitters, our Instagrams, and all that other stuff. We are out of here. See you next week. Happy holidays, Bruce. All right, man. Later.
Later, bud.